Let me pop my collar.
Hi, all.
I am popping my collar.
It's
because
the regular
I'm really sharp.
Thursday night generational change live stream.
This
Thursday
is my new
night.
look. This is my new look.
This is your look.
I'm going with the somewhat.
But you realize if you had a cowboy hat on, you'd look like Woody from Toy Story.
I would.
You're wearing gingham.
For a change. This is just. I think this is like the one type of shirt that I have that's like that. I think
you're, you're starting to want to dress up a little bit lately. I'm not so sure about that.
Professional. I
want to be a little less professional.
Okay, well, you're business casual.
Oh, I'm casual.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'm casual.
Well, hit the like, everybody. Hit the like button. Subscribe on YouTube. And share.
Okay, so I have some very exciting information.
Oh, Jen's got exciting
information. I have exciting information. So tomorrow we will be doing a special. I'm very excited.
This is an exclusive.
This is a very exclusive. This is like a very exclusive announcement. Nobody knows this yet, but I am interviewing Vosh tomorrow at 5:00 Eastern time. I will go live and I have an hour of time to talk to Vosh. I have so many questions. I've been taking notes on things I want to talk with him about for like a month now. So, yeah, I think I'm going to actually have to be like 100% sober. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I don't know. He's young. He's fresh. He's bright.
Knowing a guy like Vosh, he might actually end up wanting to talk to you for longer than an hour.
I don't know. He's just
make like a great impression to start.
He's very smart and exciting for our little station, our little channel is he will simultaneously be on doing his live stream.
So we might scoop a whole bunch of new viewers and everything.
So it could be a very good thing. So anyway, that's my exciting news.
Everybody hit the like button. Everybody subscribe on YouTube. Watch on YouTube if you could.
Yes.
That's a very big help for us. We need to get to 4,000 viewing hours, and we are just under 2,600 viewing hours right now.
Lulu wants to say hi to everyone.
So
say hi, Lulu. She got groomed today, so she wants everyone to know how pretty. Are you pretty?
Well, we're all dog people here.
Okay, so our guest today, I don't know if we put that out there who it is? Is it?
Yeah, we put it out on social media.
Okay, so what's cool about it is in one day, I'm talking to two state legislators, two different states, mind you, but two state legislators. I had a very good conversation today with Representative Anika Omfroy, who is not actually a representative in our district. She's just north of us.
No, she actually has a sliver of plantation.
Really?
Yes, there is a portion of plantation that's in the district.
And that was really cool. Yeah. I'd never met her, and I got to talk to Representative Omfroy. So on
cool. A technicality, that is true.
Yes.
Everybody, please hit the like button if you haven't already.
Okay.
So it's definitely been a interesting week. I mean, it's just so weird how there's just
I feel like it's going so fast. I can't even remember anything that right now. All I can think about is the Robin Hood situation. And I mean this because I've been saying this for years, that to me, what the revolution is going to look like is we're just one hack away from someone taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor.
Well, I actually think the bigger story here is not that the Melvin Capital got screwed by the people on Reddit. I think the bigger story here is the fact that the Robinhood trading app shut down the trades from the common man today. Oh yeah, we can't have this.
They stopped trading period yesterday, I thought.
Yes.
So in other words, it's really like you're playing a game, and as soon as you start to lose, you shut it off.
Yeah, it's like, no, wait, I'm taking my ball.
We can't.
We
I
can't
mean,
do
it's outrageous. It's so, and yet I'm so amused. Go. And you know what the moral of the story is? And I learned this from all of the different people I spoke to campaigning. Mm-hmm. Don't fuck with the Reddit people. That's what I can tell you right there. Don't fuck with the Reddit people. There are some exceptionally very wonky, very smart, very technical type people that hang out in those places.
It's kind of like
it's not like Facebook.
No, it's like the Yang Gang in a way.
Well, they're very wonky. They're very and look, I'm sure that there's plenty of rooms in Reddit that is not that, but I'm just saying there is a level of discourse in places on Reddit that far exceeds the level of discourse on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. So there is a different level of people, and good for them. Good for that. You know what? Look, I've always thought it's just a matter of time till the right hacker does the right thing. And this was totally legit. Like, this wasn't even like a hacking thing, but this is how they don't like it when you play their game.
No, and again, they've been able to get away with it for a very long time. And I do think, and this can technically be part of News and Amuse because it is actually one of the primary talking points.
All right, I'll share.
You know, we really are in a unique time because there's already enough animosity going on within the fact that, you know, it's kind of like an interesting tie-in here because Biden just completed his first week as president, and already he's governing exactly as you would expect him to, which is basically he's done some decent things, you know, obviously repealing the Muslim ban, repealing the, you know, the trans-military ban.
Paris Climate Agreement was good.
Paris Climate Agreement, nixing the Keystone XL pipeline. So he's had some good stuff. You know, I'm not going to say that he hasn't. And obviously the bar is so damn low because of Trump
the bottom line is where are our $2,000 checks? Okay. Because that was literally promised. So there's that, which is a big glaring problem. And what's your other negative? What's your other big negative?
Well, the reality is they're not doing anything as far as healthcare is concerned. In fact, Biden has the audacity to suggest that opening up the ACA exchange for an extended period is exactly what people need right now.
Yeah, that's what we need. Because a lot of people have expendable income right now, disposable income to be doing.
You've got 15 million people that have lost their jobs and with it their health care.
So
but yeah, give them the exchange. Give them something that they can't afford. Or Cobra. Let's give them Cobra.
Cobra is so affordable.
But I think people are starting to recognize their own power now. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not just going to accept things the way that they are. I am.
Oh, we're clashing with an AOC Twitch.
Yeah.
That's okay. Go back and forth. Look, the truth is that I go back and
watch
forth.
both simultaneously.
No, when I'm watching stuff, I'll go back and forth. I don't always stick with the same thing. I go in and out of live streams. That's totally cool. I don't. That's not. You cannot possibly try to accommodate everybody else's thing. Okay, here's what's really pisses me off about Biden is military-industrial complex.
Oh, that's to be expected.
The Syria thing is a problem.
And it's going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. And I'm waiting to see what they're going to do about what's going on in Yemen.
They are talking about actually coming out of Yemen.
Well,
but I think an even bigger story here is
that doesn't count unless we stop giving Saudi Arabia the weapons and refueling them midair so that they can continue. Like, we're not in Yemen. So they might be, that would be what they would do. They'd say, well, we're pulling out of Yemen. Yeah, we're not in Yemen. That's not the problem. The problem is that we're enabling someone else to do it. So unless they address that, then it's just sort of waste.
Well, you have to remember something also that isn't getting talked about enough, and that is Biden has already come out and said they are not moving the embassy out of Jerusalem.
Okay, yeah, that bothers me too. That's a problem.
Really big red flag, and that also leads to the bigger issue, the biggest one of them all, which again, down here for us, it's obviously Venezuela, but the world over, it's obviously Iran.
Oh yeah, no, and he already has come out saying that he sees Juan Guaido as the leader of Venezuela. So in other words, the person that the former president tweeted was the leader of Venezuela, because that's how other sovereign nations get their leaders, is we tweet it. And that's who Joe Biden is recognizing as a leader of Venezuela.
And that also makes it
a problem.
Well, not just that, it also becomes an even bigger problem when you're dealing with the fact that the congressional representative in this district has been one of the loudest supporters of regime change in Venezuela. And that's,
you know what?
It's a really big problem.
It's a problem, but what it really shows you is when somebody is on the side of regime change or they support Guaido, okay, what that tells you is that they support wealthy, white, corporatist Venezuelans. Now, if somebody is against regime change, and they don't necessarily have to be supporters of Maduro, that's really not our concern. He was an elected president in an election that was fairer than ours by a long shot, right? So he is their elected president. So it doesn't matter whether we like him or not. But so if that is who was chosen by the majority of Venezuelans, now we're talking about probably not all the wealthy white corporatist Venezuelans. So that's what you need. I mean, that's really what this comes down to. So yes, there are lots of Venezuelans, and specifically in our district, that are wealthy white Venezuelans that definitely support regime change.
Most of it is centered around money. There's no question, because again, That's been the driver of everything that's been going on right now. And of course, when you look at what happened with GameStop, the reason this has become such a big story is because people finally figured out how to game the system in the opposite direction. The hedge funds have been so used to, ruining people's lives again, this is.
And why aren't they talking about that? See, that's the thing. It's sort of like that same inclination to punish the whistleblower for calling out what's going on. These guys were playing their game.
They are.
Well, now the game is up.
But now the game is up.
But what's so unethical? Well, two things. One, it's totally unethical that they do that kind of crap. So they were willing to, hurt other people. They don't care. Okay, this is all that money. But the other thing is we're going to end up bailing them out.
Oh yeah.
And that to me is infuriating. That's the kind of thing that makes me want to go build guillotines in front of people's houses.
But that's what's going to take it to the next level. That's what's.
We need yellow vests.
We do.
When this comes out that we're going to bail out, because it will happen. And if they don't do it overtly, it's going to get slid into something somehow. There is no way that those hedge fund people are going to take the hit for this.
Well, everybody's got an eye on them right now, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to allow them to get away with what they've been able to get away with.
There'll be some back-end deal somewhere. There is no way that they're not going to get bailed out, because those people are the people that essentially finance our Congress. So they're not going to leave them hanging. There's no way.
And which is why I think a lot more people are open to the idea of either a general strike.
I'm telling you, yellow vests. We need yellow vests.
It's coming. I mean, how much more do they think people are going to take? I mean, at this point right now, it's like you're getting enough people desperate where they're just going to say, I don't give a damn if I don't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
What am I living for? And this again, I don't know who coined the phrase, but it's a great one, which is, I would rather, die on my feet than live on my knees. And people don't want to live on their knees, and they're tired of it. I don't blame them.
Well, I think if our cars came with yellow vests, it may have already been happening. That's the thing. We're definitely not, you don't have a lot of people that are going to take the initiative. And then the fact that people can't afford to just go buy something just because people can barely afford to eat right now. But I do think that if our cars came with them like they do in France, by the way, that's a brilliant thing, that people would be wearing them.
Well, that's also because the French have certain inalienable rights that we don't have, and they would never give them up. For example, a living wage, healthcare,
right?
And they are environmentally conscious.
Right.
They just have, again, Europe, Asia, there's just a completely different philosophy on how to live, even in countries that you would think are not so good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the most tyrannical nation that I can think of that we consider an ally is Saudi Arabia, and the way that they conduct business in their country, the subjugation of women, among other things.
You don't mean like, cutting off the limbs and disposing of a journalist in a suitcase
but they're friends, remember? They're our allies.
We're such good friends with them.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
It is going to become an even bigger problem, because again, I just think that more and more people are going to look at this and say, wow, this game really is rigged. It's not real. There's nothing there. All they did was just pump up a stock, and they're pumping it up because you had a massive hedge fund with billions in assets that decided that, we're going to short the stock into oblivion so we can make a lot of money. And then guys in Reddit got wind of it and are like, no, we're going to turn the tables. We're going to make you go bankrupt. And as it turns out, they're literally losing their mind.
Yes, except for I really do think it'll end up coming out of the taxpayers' dollars, because they'll bail them out. And if
that happens, then I do think a general strike is very possible.
I think people need to get in the street. Yeah. I really do. I think that's absolutely, like,
if they bail them out.
Well, my concern is that it will be done, but not overtly. It'll be some way in which the money gets back to them. It won't be overt, because I don't think they would do that right now.
I don't think they'll be able to get away with it.
Well, that's the thing. But I think there's no way they're going to let those people go under.
You know what?
I don't think so.
But here's the thing. They're in a very tricky spot right now, because all eyes are on this. They're not going to just be able to let it go. And we're hearing word that they are trying to regulate and shut down Reddit. What you knew that was coming. I mean, we live in it's an oligarchic corporatocracy that we live in. Does anyone doubt that now?
I'm starting to think it's sort of more just like fascist corporatocracy. I mean, I don't even know the censorship is bad. The deplatforming is bad.
Yeah.
Anything. And you know what really upsets me is when I see people on the left that are okay with people on the right being deplatformed. Okay.
It's always a slippery slope.
It's
Always. It's
I
always
can't.
the boomerang will always come back and get you because you are
The
anti-establishment.
left will ultimately always pay more.
Always.
So, that's but even if it weren't the case, it's just wrong.
And it's going to continue to get worse. But as we look at what is going on, away from obviously the national conversation, we have some pretty big developments at the local level, statewide. And that, of course, is, if anybody's familiar, if you're from Florida, of course, you know Publix, but anybody who's around the United States, that is a very big part of the problem when it comes to this oligarchic corporatocracy that we have. See, Publix is owned by a family that is very conservative, and they are huge contributors to the GOP, in particular, Governor DeSantis.
This is why I was going to say, okay, is that what we're moving on to?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So all right. So Publix and DeSantis, I still get my stuff there.
So, of course, well, Publix, I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
Exactly.
I prefer Trader Joe's.
It doesn't have everything.
Doesn't have
Trader
everything.
Joe's.
So, of course, Publix has given a substantial amount of campaign contributions to Governor DeSantis' reelection for 2022. And one of the things that they have been granted because of their very friendly giving to the GOP is now almost exclusivity rights on the distribution of the COVID vaccine. Now, you would ask yourself, well, what is the point of that? I thought the vaccine is free. Yes, it is free. But here's the thing. If you have to go into Publix to get the vaccine, the odds that people who are walking in there are likely to buy something while they're there, it's pretty high. So this is, again, market manipulation in a way that isn't ethical or good. Now, is it illegal? I'm not going to say it isn't legal, but highly unethical to the hilt. I mean, it's as bad as it gets. And this looks really, really bad. And this quid pro quo nonsense has got to stop. It should be driving everybody nuts.
I'm not boycotting Publix.
So you can't boycott Publix.
I'm not.
What does Publix have that's so good that you absolutely can't live
complete
without?
and utter convenience, because it's right next to my house.
Well,
and to
there
be
you go,
and
people.
there's not, and the next closest thing to me is a Winn-Dixie, and I just do not like
Well,
that.
I wouldn't do Winn-Dixie
well,
either.
that's
but
the next closest thing to me. So it is what it is. Okay. And yes, and I do patronize Trader Joe's. Anything I can get there, I do. I don't love their produce. I just don't. I don't want to go to Whole Foods anymore. So I had to take that off the table. So my choice is either supporting Publix or supporting Jeff Bezos. And so, you know what, people? Can't have it every way. I need a supermarket.
Well, as it turns out, our special guest is actually here early this evening. But you know what's interesting, and it's actually a really great segue for Lee, is the fact that people are really tired of this system, and they're looking for an alternative way to rewrite our circumstances. And in this case, we do have somebody who is actually in elected office in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and he is running to be their next governor. Whether he wins or loses, he's going to have a massive platform to talk about the inequitable differences within our society that should not exist anymore. Somebody who's an avowed democratic socialist.
Well, and you know what? And I really was going to not even say that, because I hate the labels. I hate the terms. But this is somebody that has self-proclaimed. I hate that, because he agrees that people should have things like a dignity and a certain basis of living, and, like a civilization. So, where he's not talking about like workers owning the means of production. I hate the labels. But anyway, so this is somebody that I know is very pro-labor, which is awesome.
Essential.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a D in front of your name, you should be pro-labor.
Well, we are supposed to be the Labor Party, which we're not.
Well, this is why it's going to be very interesting to see how everything unfolds with the whole GameStop situation, because you're in a situation right now where the Democrats are going to have to take a position on this.
Democrats don't take positions. See, here's the thing. If the Democrats were actually doing what they were supposed to be doing, then people wouldn't need to distinguish themselves as a democratic socialist. You would just be a Democrat, and we would have a social safety net, and, there would be a labor, support for labor. So,
Lee, at least you're in a state that I think is somewhat receptive, more so than the state of Florida, when it comes to the need for, I would say a workers' I don't want to say revolution, but I guess in a way it's just kind of heading in that direction. But we both happen to be from states that have the horrific right to work law. And I think we should get right into it. Obviously introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, let him introduce himself. He hasn't even been able to say anything.
Please do, Lee.
Yeah, so I'm Lee Carter. I'm a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. I represent the 50th District, which is the city of Manassas and parts of western Prince William County. And I am running for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So in Virginia, we love elections so much that we have them every year. We have our state elections in odd numbered years. So I am running for governor right now in the 2021 elections. I'm actually currently in the middle of a legislative session, and I have a statewide primary in June. Wow. So, it's fun.
You're always running.
Yeah, always running something.
Oh my God!
So many people can't stand this country.
Our local elections and our federal elections are in even numbered years, just like everybody else, and then odd numbered years, it's just us in New Jersey, which is always a ton of fun.
He's from Jersey.
I'm from Jersey. Oh, so you get it. You've been there. You know. The yard signs never go away.
No, it definitely does not. And obviously, you are a self-proclaimed democratic socialist.
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 I don't use the term democratic socialist.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't use the term democratic socialist for the same reason I don't say ATM machine or au jus sauce. It's redundant, right? So socialism is an umbrella term for any economic system where the people who do the work every day are the people who are making the decisions democratically amongst themselves, and have ownership over the place where they work in a one person, one vote basis. And so, by when people call themselves democratic socialists, it's like, oh no, I'm not that kind of socialist.
Well, that's one of the reasons I hate that whole thing, because I feel like, first of all, none of the people that are saying they're democratic socialists are. What they are social democrats. They're not socialists at all. They're capitalists. So when they say that, I think that we're just creating another generation of people that won't know what things are. We're not, and just falsely using labels. And I just think it's unproductive. But yet socialism means workers own the means of production. And when people would say Bernie's a socialist, I'm like, yeah, no, he's not.
Well, I mean, he has had a number of alternative ownership bills in the past, so he has done things to promote actual socialist ownership of enterprise. There's a reason that worker cooperatives have the highest density in Vermont of any state in the union, and it's because of the political influence of Bernie Sanders, right? So I think it's a little bit unfair to Bernie to say that he's a social democrat and not a socialist. Although his presidential campaigns didn't highlight that.
No, I mean, and he always talks about Scandinavia and this Sweden and Norway and those countries, and those are social democracies.
Right.
So when he promotes that, that's what I'm thinking is the system he's promoting.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about what his presidential campaigns highlighted, not definitionally being socialism. I think it's important to separate the two things out, right? Because you have the question of how much government should do, on the that's the scale of social democracy to laissez-faire, right? And then you have an entirely separate scale of who should own the businesses. Should it be billionaires and investors, and that's capitalism, or should it be the people who do the work for a living? And that's socialism, right? So they're two entirely separate categories. And it drives me nuts when people conflate the two, because, you have people saying, oh, socialism is when the government owns everything. And that's just completely false.
Yeah, they don't understand at all what that means, and that's the problem. So we like to be educational, but what is the population, your demographic, like, and what is your campaign like? What are you really wanting to see for your state? Like, what are you working on?
Yeah, so Virginia has about 8.5 million people, and we have very high military density, very high veteran density. We're home to Norfolk Naval Base. We're home to the Pentagon. We're home to, any number of facilities in between. But Virginia kind of economically, it kind of looks like America in miniature. And so, we've got, although we do have a high percentage of people that work for the federal government or for federal contractors, the private sector of Virginia's economy is very, we have a little bit of manufacturing. We have a whole lot of agriculture. We have, a whole lot of the service economy. And so, you've got the problems in Virginia that exist in the country as a whole. We're the most economically unequal state in the union. We have the wealthiest county in America, which is Loudoun County. And we also have some places down in Southwest Virginia where, the wealthiest person might have $40,000 to their name. Right. And so, there's in Virginia's history, there's been this sort of weird pattern where the politicians ascribe to what they call the Virginia way, which is this bipartisan, pro-corporate, very, very, very pro-corporate, nothing will ever change type political philosophy. And then throughout Virginia's history, you see, every 50 years or so, there's this massive spike of populist energy. With the readjuster movement after the Civil War, you had in the 1960s, there was a guy named Henry Howell, who was lieutenant governor for 2 years and ran for governor 3 times and got 49%. He was this close on a platform of civil rights and union rights and consumer advocacy. Right. So, Virginia's political scene is one where the system kind of stagnates for a while, and then you have the conditions for an outsider to come in and really shake things up. And I think that right now is one of those times for an outsider to come and shake things up. And I think I'm that person to do it. And so, I'm running for governor. I'm in a 5-way primary. I'm the only Democratic candidate who's never taken a dime from fossil fuel corporations. I'm the only Democratic candidate who's never taken a dime from big banks.
Do you have primaries?
We have open primary. And it looks like the Republicans are not going to have a primary at all. They're going to have a convention. So, it'll be open for anybody, regardless of party, to come in and vote. But, I've never taken a dime from any for-profit corporation or industry interest group in my entire time in politics. I never have, and I never will. And that's why I'm able to come in and talk about the actual structure of our political system and the structure of our economy, and say that when we rebuild after COVID, we need to do it in a way that we own, that we operate. That way the next crisis doesn't come and topple the whole house of cards again.
Lee, can you talk about how Virginia is a state that has transformed dramatically in the last probably 15 to 20 years? It was obviously solid red up until Obama. It became sort of a swing state, but now it seems to be firmly blue. But a lot of that blue obviously is heavily concentrated in Northern Virginia. I'm fairly familiar with the area, been through there many times. Can you discuss more or less what the overall Democratic vote looks like in the state? Because it seems to me that when we think about the so-called neoliberal centrist, almost like utopia, if you will, it is places like Loudoun and Fairfax and places like that, which is in many ways significantly different from places obviously like Southwest Virginia, Richmond, Charlottesville.
That's worker
like
people, right?
Yes.
So it's populists. That's wherever the worker bees are. So yeah, I'm not familiar with Virginia.
But in terms of like the changing, if you will, because Virginia is not what I would call a progressive state. It's blue, but it's definitely a lot of what goes on in terms of the voting, it seems, is determined in that, DC metro northern suburban area. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, I think, the Democratic Party of Virginia has been courting that suburban, more affluent vote for quite a while. But, my district is in Northern Virginia, right? My district is essentially the border between what we call Nova, Northern Virginia, and Rova, the rest of Virginia.
There you go.
If you're on the western edge of my district looking east, everything in front of you is houses all the way to Boston. Everything behind you is cows all the way to California. So, there is that divide. And, the Democratic Party has taken a lot of votes for granted, particularly in communities of color. And the Republican Party has taken a lot of votes for granted in rural communities. And, I'm going out there and saying that, the division in this Commonwealth is not between red and blue. It's between the people who have power and influence versus the people who have bills to pay. And I'm hoping that we can get people who have checked out of the political process, who have not voted in primaries for a very long time, if ever, to start showing up and say, you know what, we want to kick the apple cart over. We want someone who's actually going to fight for us and not just take our votes for granted anymore.
I think so. Wait, I just want to say, so because you have open primaries, that is an extraordinary opportunity to get the people that are the populist right, that are the people that are, you know, the labor on the right. And that is something that we cannot do here. And it's very frustrating because the working people have infinitely more in common, whether they're blue or red, than anything else. And so to be able to tap into that is real. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call them the populist right, but just, you know, people that live in rural areas who never.
Just regular people. I just mean people that just are regular people, working people, people that is the general. I just mean in a sense of want what regular people want.
Yeah. And, you know, when you're talking about rural areas, I think there's a tendency to think of them like the Republican Party's elected officials.
Yeah.
And I think that that's incorrect. You know, it's people that live in small towns and they're just trying to keep a roof over their head, and they're trying to, you know, make sure that their kid's school isn't falling apart. And, you know, they're seeing hospitals close all around them. They're seeing their economy washed out from under their feet. And, you know, I think even especially rural communities of color are just ignored by everyone in Virginia politics, if not national politics. I mean, that's the kind of place that I grew up. You know, I'm from a small town in North Carolina that is a majority black town that's the county seat of a majority white county with a population of 20,000, right? And so, you know, it's the sort of place where it has the issues of systemic racism keeping the communities of color down, and it also has the issues of our economy completely failing in rural America. It has both, and neither political party is addressing both sides of that.
We're speaking with Lee Carter, who is a current State House representative in the Commonwealth of Virginia and is running to be the next governor of Virginia. I think it's a good opportunity to distinguish yourself, not just from your current candidates, but from your current governor, who's also a Democrat, Governor Northam. So if you could talk about what are the things that he has done that you do think need improvement upon and you will do differently than he has done over the past several years?
Well, the single biggest thing is economic development, right? This is where the bipartisan consensus in Virginia is on economic development. And, you know, the current economic development programs were started by former Governor McAuliffe, who is one of my opponents in this primary. And Governor Northam has continued them. But what they mean by economic development is just taking tens and hundreds of millions of dollars and using that money to try to bribe massive corporations to come in from out of state. And please, pretty please, will you give us some jobs? And they keep, you know, cramming these corporate headquarters like Amazon HQ2 and Nestle and IKEA and Volvo, and they cram them into the same handful of localities over and over and over again. And, you know, that causes people to come in from out of state. It drives up housing prices. And, you know, on paper, it looks like the economic conditions for the people in those localities is improving. But in reality, it's just replacing the people in those localities with newer, richer people from out of state. And then the folks who, you know, grew up in Arlington, they got to move out to Fairfax because they can't afford Arlington anymore. And then 5 years later, they got to move out here to Manassas because they can't afford Fairfax anymore. And then eventually they live in Fauquier and Stafford, and they're still working in DC and driving an hour and a half each day. And that's if there's no traffic, which there never is. Right. So instead of continuing down that path of cramming more and more out-of-state corporations into these small handful of places, instead of begging billionaires to come in and pretty please give us some jobs, we're going to take that money and we're going to put it into the hands of working Virginians. And we're going to say, this is your startup capital. This is the money that you're going to need to create your own employee-owned enterprise. You own it. You control it. You know, when the next crisis hits, it's not going to be a case where, you know, 8 executives in a boardroom in New York are deciding whether or not you get to eat. It's going to be you making the decision of what to do with the money. You get to look out for the bottom line. and you're not going to vote to lay yourself off. So, not only do we solve a lot of the problems of our current economic development system, but we also, by rebuilding in a way that's worker owned, we create resiliency against the next crisis. Because, these crises, the problem always comes when these companies say, we need to look out for the bottom line, and that means firing 40,000 people. But, if it's the 40,000 people who would be fired that are making the decision of how to cut expenses, their own families are not going to be the expense that they cut.
No, I mean, ultimately what we're talking about, these are companies that are more concerned with their shareholders than with their employees. And so ultimately that's going to benefit everybody that's not in the state of Virginia, just as much as it's going to benefit a handful of people that may get employed that are in the state of Virginia. So it's really, there's a lot of money that's leaving your state and not benefiting your state. So it's unnecessary.
Right. Yeah. And, there are examples right now of what that looks like in the real world, right? On the small scale, it could be a diner with a dozen people that live there. And every 2 weeks, after they clean the tables off, they lock the door, they bring out the balance sheet and the schedule, and they decide amongst themselves who works what hours and what they do with the money. On the large scale, the largest worker cooperative in the world is the Mondragon Corporation. It was founded in Spain in the 1950s with a dozen people in a church basement. They now have, I think, 87,000 employee owners. They work in 90 some odd different countries, and they've never had a layoff. Through all the economic crises that we've been through in the last 65 or 70 years, they've never had a round of layoffs because their CEO has to run for re-election among the workers, right? And if you're hacking and slashing and firing to keep the bottom line intact, you're not going to get reelected. So instead they tighten the belts, right? The cuts come from the top. The executives take a pay cut to keep other people on the payroll. And that's the sort of economy that we can have. We just need to have the political will to say, we are going to own our economy. Far off investors are not going to own this thing that controls our destiny anymore. It's going to be us.
So then what happens to unions?
So this is an interesting question. I am very, very pro-labor. I think that everybody...
I know. Well, as are we, but we're not always pro-union. Pro-union and pro-labor are often two different things, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unions, I think that everyone who works in an investor-owned workplace should have a union. Absolutely. Because that's your way of having some control over the decisions that are made. But it's really kind of veto control. It's not direct control. It's I think you've gone too far this time. So we're going to shut everything down until you reel it back in. Whereas when we talk about actual employee ownership, that's the employees or the representatives of the employees making the decisions from day to day. And one way that you can frame that is essentially the union owns the shop, right? So you're not talking about like open shop versus closed shop. This is the union of all the workers, are the ones who actually hold the title, right? They're the ones who control what goes in and what comes out. And so, it's a completely different dynamic from what people are used to thinking of when they think of a union, because people are used to the most power you can have is just that veto. But instead of having a veto over someone else's decision, I'd much rather have the working people of Virginia be the ones making that decision.
Yeah.
Lee, we've got a couple of rapid fire questions in the meantime. If you could, we sent you a private message. If you can retweet the live link, we want to get as many people watching as possible right now. Again, we're talking with Lee Carter, who is currently a state house representative in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He is running to be the next governor of the state of Virginia. CarterForVirginia.com. Please check it out. Learn more about him. Perhaps.
He doesn't take any corporate money. People, this is the key thing.
That is the issue.
It is. It's really, without that, there's really no point in discussing any other policy issues. So,
1,000%.
Right. So Lee is the only Democrat running in his primary that has not taken fossil fuel money right? It was fossil fuel money in particular, but
fossil fuel money, big bank money,
right, any of it.
Yeah.
Well, it really does make all the difference in the world when you think about it. You know, the one thing I've learned, and I've been in sales for over 15 years, is that the simpler you can keep it for people, because as I'm sure you've been in Virginian for a very long time, you remember how popular George W. Bush was in the state. And I think it goes without saying.
North Carolina at the time, but, you know.
Even there too. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And one of the reasons he was so popular is because he was so simple. And that was also one of the appeals of Trump for a lot of people. And I do think
Trump is simple.
That is for sure. And so I really think it's important for people to understand how there really needs to be this very clear distinction between everyone gets bogged down in the wedge issues.
Yes.
To me, this is corporate versus non-corporate. And as we just saw with what happened with GameStop, it seems pretty clear to me that the ideas of, let's say, ranked choice voting, worker co-ops, really taking the workers taking control of the means of production, which is essentially the essence of socialism, would you say that is the primary issue that you're fighting for when it comes to workers' rights? I really do think that everything that's happening right now, it's kind of like an avalanche that's just waiting to tumble down.
We need yellow vests.
It kind of feels that way.
We need yellow vests. I wish they came with our cars.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get bogged down by the labels, right? They get scared off by the S word. And so, I tend not to lead with, hi, I'm a socialist and I want to be the next governor, right? What I talk about is the effects of that, which is, under Governor Carter, we're not going to be giving these handouts to massive corporations anymore. That money is going to go to you so that you can build the economy for yourself. Under a Governor Carter, we're going to make sure that your COVID expenses are reimbursed, because I don't think you should be out of pocket because you got sick during a pandemic, right? Whether that's $20 for a test or $200,000 for an ICU stay, I'm going to create an office that will handle the reimbursement of COVID expenses. So you bring in the receipts for what you paid, and you get a check from the Commonwealth so that you're made whole, right? I think that we should legalize cannabis, and when we do it, I mean, there's currently a bill to legalize
Why
cannabis.
does this to me?
Because you're one of the biggest cannabis advocates I've ever known.
Okay, I'm a pothead. That's basically what he's saying to you.
That's an
whatever.
Pot advocate.
Pot advocate.
Yeah, I mean, I've put in cannabis legalization bills for the last couple of years, and the first time I did it, it was like, oh my God, what are you doing? I mean, I had other Democrats that I'm currently running against that came up to me and said, why are you doing this to me in an election year?
To them?
Yeah. And so, by putting that bill out there, we were able to organize people, and we were able to get this fight going. And now our current governor is on board with legalization. It looks like legalization is going to happen. And the conversation is now, what do we do to legalize, right? It's no longer do we legalize or not. It's how do we legalize?
You have to have home grow. To have home grow.
Yeah, and under a Carter administration, we're going to not only have anti-monopoly provisions so that big tobacco can't buy up the whole industry. We're going to have home grow, and we're going to make sure the industry is owned and operated by the people who work in it, which is mostly going to be the people who have been affected by the war on drugs. And we're going to make sure that every single penny of cannabis tax revenue goes toward reparations for Black and Indigenous Virginians. Because
I love you.
Virginia's government has been complicit in some of the worst crimes ever committed in the genocide of Native Americans, the transatlantic slave trade, redlining, Jim Crow, the war on drugs, all of these things that our government has to try to make amends for. Cannabis tax alone is not going to be enough to completely make up for it, but we got to start.
Yeah, no, that's a great connection.
And it's a great place to start. And the biggest promise that I'm making is, we're going to end the mass incarceration system in this Commonwealth. The United States incarcerates more of its people than any other country in history. And second place isn't even close. So, I'm going to fight to change the laws so that we're not locking so many people up. But as governor, Even if it takes me signing thousands of commutations myself, I will guarantee that after my 4 years are up, our prison population will be at least 30% lower than the day I'm sworn in. And that's a power that the governor has unilaterally.
Yes.
So that is a promise I can make. If I make it to the governor's mansion, our prison population will go down, period.
Yeah. Nonviolent drug offenders.
Yeah.
I mean, well, look, there's a myriad of reasons why that we have over incarceration, but clearly nonviolent drug offenders is a huge part of that population.
We have a very important question. It is an open primary race, but is it a runoff race? Is it basically the top two go to the general, or is this the election?
Yeah, explain your primary process.
It is a conventional open primary. So, the Republican Party is going to have a convention, it looks like, to pick their party appointed nominee. And the Democratic Party is having a state-run primary. So everyone can vote in the Democratic primary. It is open. And out of the 5 of us that are running for the Democratic nomination, whoever gets the most votes will be the Democratic nominee.
Okay.
We'll take on the Republican nominee.
Yeah.
We're speaking with Lee Carter, who is running for the governorship in the Commonwealth of Virginia, currently a state house representative. Everybody who's watching, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube, hit the like button, and share. Want as many people to know about Lee as possible. This
is a really nice comment. And so I did a little research into you. So I know that you're a Marine. So, and I'm a very, I wouldn't say I'm a pacifist, but I'm just a non-military person, and people know that. But yet, and I will say this it's very interesting. There's this dichotomy. I have the utmost respect for people that dedicate their lives to something greater than themselves. So I have a lot of respect for that. And I definitely have a very soft spot for Marines. This goes back to somebody my freshman year in college who was an ROTC, but needless to say, I digress. So I find that very cool. And someone had just said you inspired them to serve and then run for office. I think that's really awesome. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, a lot of leftists get hung up on the fact that I'm a veteran, but I grew up in a military family in a military town. I was told essentially from the cradle that this is a way that you can, first of all, get on your feet, and second, do something good while you're doing it. And unfortunately, it turned out that second part turned out not to be true. And there's this class divide within the military that a lot of people don't recognize, don't want to recognize, where you have officers that come from wealthy backgrounds, that come from wealthy communities. They have a college degree as a requirement, and they are allowed to quit at any time. And then you have enlisted, who are largely much poorer, who come from a small handful of places in this country, from military towns, from the Rust Belt, from places that are either stagnant or in decline. And, we're not allowed to quit at any time, right? So, you come in and you're sold on this idea of doing something good, and it's going to be amazing, and you're going to feel great about everything. And it's going to be a way that you can, put a roof over your family's head and blah, 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 blah. And at 18 years old, you sign your name on that line. And then in my case, for the next 5 years, because I had a 5-year contract, if I had tried to quit, they would have thrown me in jail. Right.
Yeah.
And
it's a pretty hardcore jobs program that we offer in this country, but make no mistake, that is our job. That is our jobs program.
Yeah. And it's that dichotomy that leaves a lot of people coming out of the military extremely disillusioned. If you actually go and talk to people on military bases, particularly junior enlisted troops, the number one thing that you will hear is, my recruiter lied to me. That is the most common sentiment on a military base. And, you get on the right, you get this troop worship that's like, rah, rah, absolutely everybody in the military is a hero and none of them have done anything wrong. And then on the left, you get this, the exact polar opposite of anybody who's ever been in the military is just completely evil. And, it leaves
people who think that.
Yep.
It leaves the overwhelming majority of people who do one tour of enlistment and get out because they're disillusioned, because the reality didn't match up to the propaganda that they were sold on. And, it's like most of us, we just want to go back to normal life. We actually do want to help people, as opposed to, the what our recruiter said we were going to do, So it's just I think the folks on both sides of this issue have got the military just completely wrong in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Well, that's why there's a difference. Somebody put up anti-war is not anti-veteran, and that is the distinction that I think really needs to be put out there. Obviously, one of the things that I do think is the advantage to the non-corporate progressive candidates in multi-person races is you pretty much have that lane all to yourself. What is your path to victory against the rest of the field? What do you see as being that path?
He's just better.
That's the easy answer.
So I'm running against a former governor who is a very close friend of the Clinton family.
Say no more.
The guy has a 9-figure bank account.
Just that's what we need.
I am absolutely never going to raise more money than him, so I'm not going to try.
There's no. It's
right.
Never
so the strategy is to just not try to make it an arms race. It's to just get the message out to people who have been taken for granted or completely forgotten by the major political parties. And we're going to create this sort of farmer labor strategy where we're talking to folks in rural areas and saying, we're going to put you back to work in jobs that you own. We're gonna fight back against Walmart and Family Dollar, because everybody who lives in a small town knows when Walmart and Family Dollar come in, all the mom and pops board up and everybody's screwed, right? We're going to fight back against them. We are going to bring back the main street shops, and we're going to do it in a way that people in your community own. We're also going to bring back family farms by creating programs to feed hungry Virginians with Virginia-grown, cooperatively owned produce.
It's fascinating. Yes, I know. It's just, it boggles the mind how, it's just
common sense.
It is, but yet it's so frustrating that this is like such an effort,
And then we're going to go into the cities and into the suburbs, and we're going to say, we're going to fight to make sure that the housing prices go down, because like where I live in Manassas, I have a very small apartment that I'm paying $2,000 a month for. And this is the cheapest place in town. Yeah. So, people are just getting absolutely squeezed out by real estate speculators that are profiting off of the massive influx of people that come in every time there's one of these economic development programs. And so we're going to fight back against the big corporate landlords. We're going to fight for things like statewide rent control, cooperative ownership of multifamily units. We're going to fight for like a vacancy tax for unoccupied rental properties, so they can't just sit on these empty apartments and empty houses to drive the price up. And good cause eviction laws, so that you can't be kicked out of your home when you didn't do anything wrong, right? We're going to fight for all of these things that put you in control of your housing. That way, we will be able to lower the cost of housing and let you, the working Virginian in Fairfax or Alexandria or Arlington or Henrico or wherever, we're going to let you not have to work so many hours to keep a roof over your head so you can see your kids. So, it's both of those things. And by giving folks in every part of Virginia a better future to look forward to, we're going to get people out to vote who have never voted in a Democratic primary before. And we are absolutely going to win this thing.
When is your primary?
It's June 8th. But early voting starts 45 days before that. So, particularly in COVID conditions, I'm encouraging people to register for absentee ballots so you can vote by mail.
Yes.
But that does, it pushes it way ahead. So I think that starts, let me look at a calendar here. Let's see, June. Yeah, it starts somewhere around the end of April. So we really don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. So, and I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, like if you win, I'm thinking that the solution for us in Florida is for the progressives to pack up and move to Virginia. Because it's sounding really good there. And yeah.
Well, ironically, Jen has a very strong affinity for your home state of North Carolina.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am definitely. I'm a mountain girl stuck in a beach town. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Florida's definitely it moves very, very slowly.
Slow.
And we've got all kinds of problems. We've got the COVID vaccine that's been monopolized by Publix because of their relationship with the governor. It's bad,
I got family in Florida.
So
Yeah, my mom went to high school in Jacksonville, so
okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very familiar.
You're familiar with Florida?
I know that Florida is the only place where the more north you go, the more south you get.
That's true.
Florida is, and one of the things they teach you when you're studying for the bar exam here is Florida was at the time, and it probably still is, it's the only state where a man can legally marry his mother. Yeah.
Well,
Florida is full of it. Look, that's one of the first things they teach you in Barbie. It's like an icebreaker, and it should something. Look, everybody who's taken Florida Barbie, that's what we remember is from the family law section.
We call the most conservative part of the state the Panhandle, Floribama, for a reason. It definitely has earned its reputation, and of course, it has Matt Gaetz as a representative. So there's
I grew up in a military family, right? My dad was Coast Guard. I started elementary school in Mobile. So
there you go.
So I'm very, very familiar with the Gulf states as a whole.
It's special.
It's its own thing for sure.
But so is Virginia. But so is Virginia. You really, again, I know you said it's Northern Virginia and rest of Virginia, but if you think about it, it really is a very unique state. It's got a lot of rich history, to say the least. And of course, you got Northern, you got Southwest, you've got
I need
Central,
to spend more time there. I do.
And also the East Coast. I mean, Virginia Beach, Newport News, there's just so much that the state has to offer that there really is this misconception about what Virginia is all about. I do agree with you that Northern Virginia is its own state in many ways, but so much of the rest of the state has so much to offer, and it's so beautiful. It's so nature rich, and especially because when I've driven through the state, I usually come up to the Southwest corridor off of I forgot what that interstate is that crosses through. Yeah, the one that crosses to 84, I think it is. Am I the one that crosses through Tennessee and North Carolina? But anyway, I'm coming through the area that. Say that again.
Maybe 77.
Yeah, I think whatever one that comes through. What am I thinking of? The city that's in the southwest part of Virginia. That's. The name is losing me right now, but my point is when you're driving through that part of the state, it's like mom and pop shops as far as the eye can see. Everybody has their own acre of land, and it's like Americana to the fullest extent. And it's like that for about 2 to 3 hours of straight driving until you literally hit a part of the state where you're in a completely different world. Where, like you said, Manassas and McLean and Alexandria and places like that. I can't for the life of me understand how they think it's okay to just forget about that part of the state. And the more it becomes blue, because of the corporate blue that it is, the more I fear that those voters are being forgotten. And I'm thinking that for you specifically, that could be the path to victory, is really focusing on that rural working class voter.
Well, those are the places, the mountains of Virginia are, some of my favorite places in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I need votes out there.
Yeah.
It really, just always from the first moment that I went out there, me and my dad took a vacation to Sparta, North Carolina, which is about this far outside of Galax. And just that part of the world is just the most gorgeous place that I've ever been. And I've been a lot of places. But yeah, it's just completely forgotten by the Democratic Party. And, there's a lot of Democrats that just write that area off because they vote for Republicans for president. But, you look at the political history of Southwest Virginia, and, It's the place that's had historically the highest union density. There's a very rich sort of ancestral history out there of militant unionism, because they grew up hearing stories about granddaddy grabbing his rifle and going to defend the picket line at the coal mine, right? So, there is definitely a rich opportunity for someone to come along and say, we're going to put working people in charge again in Southwest Virginia. And we're gonna get away from the politics of racism and letting big corporations exploit racism to manipulate people into voting for corporate politicians. And we're going to build a multiracial working class coalition in Southwest Virginia and in Hampton Roads and in Richmond and everywhere. And every single place in this Commonwealth, we are going to put working Virginians in charge.
And I finally remembered, and a friend of Jen's actually pointed out, it's Interstate 81 and it's Roanoke. That's what I couldn't remember.
Thank you, Rosebud.
I do think that
we actually just got rail service back to Roanoke like a year and a half ago for the first time in like 50 years. So,
which is a good thing. And I got to tell you,
this is what happens when you have very smart friends who federal law clerk friends who are just really, really smart and very wonky, and they just look stuff up for you just because they're there.
Well, that's a good advantage. And what that leads me to is we actually have a number of friends. We had an amazing volunteer, Bella, on the campaign, who is at George Mason. There are so many big colleges throughout the state. Have you been able to make some good inroads with those people? And that's a good segue to a question of, you happen to have a supporter in the state who graduated last year and is curious about your opinion on the curriculum taught in Virginia schools and how that may change. So essentially a two-parter, which is the Virginia education system coupled with your ability to connect with a lot of the college students throughout the state. And there are plenty.
There are plenty. And our education curriculum definitely does need some change. One of the things that I'm going to do as governor is I'm going to treat teachers like the knowledgeable professionals that they are. I'm going to trust their judgment, right? I know that doesn't sound like a big political statement.
No, it does, which is it's pathetic, but it does. And continue. I'm sorry.
So, there's a federal minimum number of standardized tests that every state has to administer, but Virginia currently exceeds that minimum. So we're going to come down to the minimum. We are not going to do any standardized tests that the federal government doesn't absolutely require. And we're going to put teachers in charge of what they teach so that we're not teaching to a standardized test. This is the thing that we hear all the time from teachers in the Commonwealth is, I feel like there's no flexibility. There's no room to teach important things. We have these moments where, if I had the time, I could go off on a tangent and the kids are, involved and they're really focused in on what, side discussion we could have. But instead of that, I have to, snap them back and say, you need to memorize the answer to question 52. Right. And so we're not going to do that anymore. Teachers are going to have that flexibility to teach students in a way that makes them well-rounded people. In Virginia's Constitution, we actually have some language that needs to change when it comes to education. Virginia's Constitution says that the Commonwealth shall seek to provide an equal education in every locality. But that seek to right there.
Not shall provide.
Right. So I will support a constitutional amendment to get rid of the words seek to in the educational portion of Virginia's Constitution, so that Virginia's Constitution will say the Commonwealth will provide an equal education in every locality. Because we have some localities where, like Loudoun County, you have these fantastically well-funded schools because it's the wealthiest county in America. And people are clamoring to get into those schools. But then you go to places like Richmond County or Lee County, or Westmoreland County, where there's just no property tax base to support good schools. And it's this death spiral, right? So the property tax base is low, so they can't put the money they need to into schools. Because they can't put the money they need to into schools, people don't want to live there. Because people don't want to live there, the property tax goes down. Because the property tax is going down, they have to cut more from schools over and over and over again. And the buildings are crumbling. And it's not just rural Virginia. I mean, it happens in the cities too, right? We have this problem in Richmond County with a population of a few hundred, and we have this problem in Richmond City with a population of a few 100,000. So we've got to get rid of that educational disparity, and we're going to do that by changing those 2 words in Virginia's Constitution.
Amazing.
Virginia is one of the biggest states in the country, much like the Carolinas, for military families. Are you the only current former soldier that is?
Okay, he's not a soldier, he's a Marine.
I said former soldier.
You said soldier.
You're not allowed to say.
He's a Marine.
And
I would like to point out the person who taught me that. Thank you. Same person right there. That's Rosemary Coakley, because her husband, Thad, is a Marine. And I learned that. And you should know that. I'm sorry.
The Marines are on another level than the rest. I understand that. And I was listen, I didn't join the Army. I
clearly
did, but I know that there's a certain level of respect and honor that comes with being Semper Fi. So with that said, are you the only current person who has served in the military that is running for governor?
Yeah, definitely on the Democratic side. There's more people jumping into the race on the Republican side, but frankly, there's only 2 Republican candidates that have a chance in a convention, and neither one of them are veterans. So, if I'm the Democratic, I am the only one in the Democratic race who's a veteran.
Right.
And if I'm the nominee, then I'll be the only one in the race in November who's a veteran.
Well, I definitely think that is something that all Marines are former Marines.
Thank you, Rosebud.
Not ex-Marines. Ex-Marines are kicked out.
This is what I'm saying. And you're not a soldier.
Did I say ex?
No, you said soldier. Soldier is not a Marine. Yeah. Sorry. Onward.
But, I mean, even looking at the rest of the General Assembly, right? There's 100 delegates. There's 40 senators. I want to say there's 2 of us that were enlisted. There's about a dozen former officers from various branches, Air Force, Navy.
Wow.
But there's I think 2 enlisted guys. I'm the only Democrat that was enlisted.
Right.
And that perspective, just enlisted versus officer, is a massive change in perspective. A large part of the Democratic Party's problem connecting with military voters is they keep trying to run these rich college boy officers over and over and over.
Don't even. I know what it disgusts me.
Lee, do you know the last elected Democratic president who served in the military?
No, I don't.
JFK. JFK is the last one,
and he was an officer.
He sure was. He was a war hero,
but he was an officer,
right? And
of course.
I guess the
Democratic Party. The Democratic Party puts up officers and says this will get us the military vote, and then they wonder why they struggle in military towns. It's because officers are speaking a completely different language from enlisted. I mean, first of all, just the usage of the word fuck. It's on a completely different level between enlisted and officers. But we have different life experiences. We come from different backgrounds than officers do. And former officers, yes, we can honor the service they put in, but it is a completely different type of person. And they just don't have that connection with enlisted folks.
Yeah,
I definitely think that is something, I just as an observer from the outside, that especially in a state like Virginia, I would lean into that. I do think that there is something about being a person of honor that goes a very long way, and especially on, like you said, the Democratic side.
I think it's just women like men in uniforms.
That helps too. that definitely can hurt.
No, it's true.
The
and that doesn't really apply. I'm sorry, but it doesn't really apply to law enforcement officers for me. But to each his own. For me,
that's a different thing.
It's Marine whites and anything kind of firefighter that looks like official, like when they're dressed, not in the firefighter during the firefighting, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, it's Marine whites and dressed up firefighters or something special.
So a couple of so we'll go with as we wind down, a couple of rapid fires. I want to get back to some of the questions that have come in we've had a great audience that have come in this evening, and your boost definitely helped it out a significant amount. So we thank you for that. Ranked choice voting, yes or no?
We don't have it, but we should.
Okay, that's what they wanted to know, if you were in favor of it.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
I would imagine so. And why would somebody ask you that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very clear from the first month of my first campaign for the House that I run as a Democrat because there's no Labor Party.
Same here.
And the fact of the matter is that our ballot system is what forces people into choosing only two options. Right? If you structure the ballot differently, then people can actually vote for who they want, as opposed to voting for who they think is least likely to lose.
Oh, yeah.
I tell everybody, if you really think it doesn't make a difference, look no further than what happened in the general when Howie Hawkins got less than 1% of the vote, and Lisa Savage up in Maine, because of ranked choice voting, got over 5% of the vote. Now everyone's like, well, 5%. Well, if we had ranked choice voting, then over time, it naturally would become a much more accepted thing where you could vote for the candidate you want. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. With that said, how
it builds up over time.
And for sure. And how do you feel about the People's Party? Is it something that has any type of, footing in Virginia that people are talking about? Obviously here in Florida, we are close primary, gerrymandered to the hill, all that. It's not going to happen. It's Democrat or Republican. That's the way it is. And it's Florida. How about Virginia? How has the reception been for the possibility of looking to an outside option versus the traditional two parties?
Yeah, well, I run as a Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat for governor. I've run as a Democrat for the House twice now, because that's what's feasible here.
Yeah.
I like to say that there's no other country in the world where me and Terry McAuliffe would be in the same party. And that's just a fact. I mean, we represent completely different constituencies. I represent a working class constituency, a labor constituency, a constituency of renters, of people that are struggling to afford health care. I represent a constituency of people who don't have this massive, overwhelming faith in institutions and have to look to their neighbors for help making ends meet or for help keeping their communities safe. And former Governor McAuliffe does not represent those folks. He represents lobbyists, and he represents landlords, and he represents massive corporations. And it shows, because if you go on vpap.org and look at who his donors are, they are completely different from mine. They are massive corporations. They are billionaires. They are hedge funds. They are fossil fuel companies and big banks. And my donors are school bus drivers and programmers and teachers. And we represent two entirely different populations. Yeah. And in any country with a rational electoral system, we would not be in the same party.
Well, we're not rational. We have a completely malfunctioning republic. We have a non-functioning republic. It's just completely not functioning.
The only thing that unifies me and the corporate wing of the Democratic Party is opposition to Republicans.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. That's a low bar, as they say.
It's a very low bar.
So the bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
We're obviously in desperate need of, radical change at this point. We have already seen in the first week of the Biden administration that it's probably not going to happen unless people get in the streets. I would be shocked if it took, if it didn't happen that way. What type of a difference would it make at the state level? Because obviously at the federal level, we would need to have Medicare for all implemented that way. But is there anything that could be done at the state level? Because we're actually going to be having a group called Whole Washington on our show very soon, which is going to talk about the push for statewide Medicare for all in Washington State. I just did an interview today with a legislator from Florida. And one of our questions is
is about Medicaid expansion. So that's a big thing that the league is pushing on, is Medicaid expansion. And, even that, we won't get that, but
what could be done? Yeah, what could be done as governor from your perspective, as far as healthcare is concerned at the state level?
Well, my first campaign, I ran against a member of Republican Party leadership. Like this was the number 3 guy among the House Republicans when the Republicans were 1 vote away from being able to overturn a veto. I mean, they were literally 1 seat away from a supermajority. This is an extraordinarily powerful guy who had been holding up Medicaid expansion for 8-9 years at that point. I came in along with a bunch of others in the 2017 elections. And although we didn't get the majority in that election, we scared the piss out of the Republicans. And we forced them to go ahead and go along with Medicaid expansion. They didn't want to, but we forced their hand. And we were able to get, there's now about 500,000 Virginians who have health insurance thanks to Medicaid expansion that did not have it before. But there's still about 500,000 Virginians with no health insurance whatsoever. And that was before the pandemic. And there's upwards of 1 million Virginians who have health insurance and they can't afford to use it. And so, a lot of Democrats here in Virginia, once we passed Medicaid expansion, they said, that's it, we're done with healthcare. What's the next thing? And I've constantly been saying, no, we are not done with healthcare. We've done the bare minimum. We've got to keep going. And so last year, I introduced and passed into law HB 66, which caps copays for insulin products at $50 a month. This year, I put in 2 budget amendments to build on that success. One to allow for pharmacies to dispense an emergency supply of insulin if if your prescription is expired, or you broke the vial and you need a refill and you don't have a valid prescription, you can't get to the doctor for a week. It'll allow pharmacies to issue a prescription for an emergency basis to tide you over until you can get the real prescription. And another budget amendment that will allow Virginia Medicaid to cover insulin products for all uninsured Virginians. And that's the big one. If we get that one, and the price tag on that is a lot lower than I thought. But if we get that one, then Virginia will be the first state where we can actually say that every Virginian with diabetes can get the insulin that they need, period. End of story. No other state can say that. We will be the first.
You definitely.
It's amazing. Florida doesn't aspire for anything. Yeah. Nobody aspires for anything. We're perfectly content being 46th in education and 48th in mental health availability and services. And we're just content with that.
But while I'm doing these incremental steps, I'm also fighting for the big picture, which is a universal healthcare system that covers everybody, so that everybody can see a doctor. We're not talking about access. We are talking about healthcare. I want it to work for the average Virginian the way that it works for active duty military, which is when you need to see a doctor, you go to medical, you show them your ID card, and they fix you up, and that's it. And there's absolutely no reason why Virginia can't have that. The example that I look to is Austria, because it's the closest analog to Virginia when you're comparing economies, right? We have 8.5 million people. They have 8.3 million. Their GDP is 5% different from ours. Their land mass is 20% different from ours. So it's a very, very close comparison. And they have a universal healthcare system and we don't. And their universal healthcare system is one of the most expensive in the world. And it's still 30% cheaper than ours that doesn't cover everybody. So there's absolutely no reason. I mean, we have the example. Even if we just copy and paste from Austria, we're going to save 30% and we're going to cover everybody. We're going to save lives. And, if obviously the Fed's doing it would be best. I want Medicare for all on the federal level. They're the currency issuing authority. They don't have a balanced budget requirement, so they're best able to handle it in an emergency. But even if the feds aren't going to do it, there's no reason that the states can't. And the best benefit of the states doing it is that it gets done faster and it saves lives. The second best is that it saves money. The third best is that it shames the feds. And it might make them actually go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's going to take more representation from individuals like yourself, regardless of what ultimately ends up happening in June. Virginia is much better for having you as one of their representatives. Any final thoughts? Obviously, everybody, Carter for Virginia.com. Lee needs all the help he can get, especially, I'm sure, with phone banking would be a huge thing, text banking.
Yes.
You know, Lee, you definitely share your final thoughts.
Yeah.
We're very grateful to have you come on the show this evening.
Yeah. So right now, because I'm in the General Assembly and the General Assembly is in session, I'm actually prohibited from fundraising. But we absolutely have a dire need of volunteers.
Okay.
We've already got people making voter contacts on the phones. We just sued the Department of Elections and got a COVID safe petition signature collection process. They're going to be coming out with the details of that on February 5th. You know, we started off with the premise that campaigns should not be super spreaders, and we sued to make that a reality, and we won. But, you know, Virginians need to know that this coming June, there is an opportunity to vote for someone that comes from the same kind of background that they do, that knows the same kinds of struggles that they do. They have an opportunity to vote for someone who is going to fight for them because he doesn't answer to the same kind of corporate donors that the other politicians do. I've never taken a single dime from for-profit corporations or industry interest groups. I never have, and I never will. I am in this fight for working Virginians because I am a working Virginian. I'm starting my car with this and a pair of pliers, right? And I'm running for governor. So if you want someone who is going to fight to protect working Virginians and put working Virginians in control of our own destiny, it's not going to be the multimillionaire in this race. It's not going to be the 3 lawyers in this race. It's going to be the electronics repairman who got into this to fix workers' comp.
Right. I think it's awesome.
Beautifully said. Carter for Virginia.com. Lee Carter, State House Representative in the Commonwealth of Virginia, running to be the next governor of the state of Virginia.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. And if you're up for it, we'd be happy to have you back when it gets closer to your election. And hopefully we'll have an even bigger platform by then.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Lee.
Thanks for coming on, Lee.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
Good man.
Yeah, I'm moving to Virginia if he wins.
Yeah, North
I'm just
Carolina
saying.
be close enough. Right?
I don't know. If he wins, it's like that could be your governor. That could be someone's governor.
So Sam is saying that the profile picture is actually of the Virginia Capitol where Lee works. So there you go. I think he's one of many people, like you have in Ann Escamani here in the state, that are becoming part of that
special
political revolution.
He's special.
And he's unabashed. He's very proud. And I do think the fact that he is a Marine is that'll have an impact. It should.
You know what? Every group that you can identify with or that can identify with you based on some experience in your life is another group of people that you're kind of opening the door for. So it could be a lot of things, but veterans is huge, and especially in Virginia. So yeah, that's definitely a nice commonality.
And I do think it's going to be, obviously it's going to be tough. There's, Terry McAuliffe is, if you want to talk about one of the biggest Clinton sycophants.
You know what? All anyone would have to say to me is there are Clintons, No,
but Terry McAuliffe is on a whole other level. He's pretty, and the fact that he's running for governor again, it's like they really, what happens? They get so rich and powerful, and they're like, I got nothing better to do with my time. Well, I gotta.
That's what it is. They have nothing better to do. Okay, so we're gonna go. Are we gonna go into our bootlicker?
So with that said, we do have a bootlicker of the week that
we're gonna. Okay, right. So we always have to do it like right after the change maker.
Speaking of the Clintons and the fact that Hillary had such a hard time letting go and never really went away, we were hoping that the now former president would go away. Now, even though he may not be seeking out the media, apparently he hasn't gone away completely, because our bootlicker of the week is none other than House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Why is he the bootlicker of the week? Well, he decided to come down here to South Florida today, and he told I got.
Oh no! I'm not holding it. I'm not supporting this.
We totally had a really, really incredible meeting today, and he came over to my house.
So what you're saying is this POS just came to visit the second impeached
We
president.
had a really wonderful conversation. We were talking about the midterms. And
Classy guy.
I totally had to tell him who I really like, and he really appreciated everything I had to say. He always has, which is why he's a really incredible person, really tremendous guy, great guy. And he totally doesn't beat me at golf, which makes it even better. So as I was saying, I told you weren't getting rid of me. I told you I wasn't going anywhere. I made a promise and I kept my promise. I always keep my promises. I totally do what I am going to do every time. Believe me.
Sam, the election is in June, but if you look above, my friend did a little bit of research and explained that it could be delayed until August. So if you scroll up in the chat, there's a big paragraph explaining the primary. I'm sorry.
So Kevin and I, we hatched this really incredible plan about how the GOP is totally taking back the House and how I'm totally going to run for president again. But don't tell anybody. This isn't live, right? No one's going to see this. Totally keeping it in private. We don't want anyone to know. But it was a really great meeting. A tremendous meeting.
Did you see Lee Carter?
Who's Lee? Totally don't. The only Carter I know was the biggest loser president that ever was. He was a one-term president. One-term president. Do you know those one-term presidents?
Yeah,
they're total losers.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Totally total losers. No, I totally won that election. I totally am serving my second term right now. I'm just serving it in Mar-a-Lago. That's all anybody needs to know.
Oh my God.
Listen, Kevin knows exactly what to say and exactly what to do to make me feel.
Okay, but can
like
I would like to though, while we have people on, please everybody hit the like button.
Don't hit the like button if you like.
Since we're talking about bootlickers.
Totally don't hit the like button. This is a terrible show.
Stop.
She totally doesn't care about what I have to say.
No, I don't. So talking about bootlickers, I want to talk about a state bootlicker.
Ooh.
A state of Florida bootlicker.
One more
so
time.
As you guys know, Kevin McCarthy.
He's a great bootlicker. He licks mine better than anybody else.
So we just
Really
in
great
Florida,
guy.
for people
Really
who
great
don't
guy.
know, you've got to stop. Passed an amendment to increase our state minimum wage to $15 an hour. It passed. A majority of people in the state clearly wanted it. So true to form, our Florida legislature has to now have somebody introduce legislation to try to pull back on that. So what is that? You have to remind me this douche's
He's
name
out
again.
in Tampa Bay.
St. Pete.
St. Petersburg.
Somebody.
Kevin, Brenner or something like that.
I don't know.
No,
this guy actually just introduced legislation in our state house, a resolution that is going to exclude certain populations from that minimum wage. And interestingly enough, one of those populations is formerly incarcerated individuals.
Under the age of 21.
And formerly incarcerated individuals.
Yeah.
And he is categorizing those as harder to hire categories. And he's saying this as if by lowering their minimum wage, he's actually helping them get jobs. That's how this man is couching this. I need to have the name. Somebody tell me this guy's name.
What is the name of the state senator in the GOP?
I had it a minute ago.
Introduced legislation.
I had it again ago. Oh, here it is.
Jeff Brandis. That's it. Jeff Brandis.
Yeah. This guy.
Yeah.
I think.
I wouldn't say he's the bootlicker of the week.
No,
this
person needs to be called out. This person needs to be called out. This guy. Anyway, so continue.
And again, we have this really big problem. Oh, we went to Carson Newman. I work with that school. That's unfortunate. So Jeff,
How do you do it?
No, go back.
All right, you do it. You do it.
This would be a better.
All right, you do it. I feel like, first of all, oh, that's not him. It never ceases to amaze me that the majority of Floridians will vote for something, and then the legislature will say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. No, just do the whole page. Share his whole page. Public information.
Yeah, I'm having a
here. Close that.
Okay, this one right here. Close this.
No, go back to what you were just in and close that.
Okay, this.
And close that. And now share this screen.
Okay.
Okay. So go back to StreamYard.
Right.
It's like walking him through it. I'm
learning.
Challenged.
Yeah.
Share screen. Chrome tab. This guy. This gentleman right here, Jeff Brandis. This guy He is the Florida legislature from St. Petersburg.
He's probably a austerity hawk. He's probably
He is. We're going to talk. He is the Senate Judiciary Chairman.
Oh, even better. Which probably means that he takes an ungodly amount of money
his
from
new Senate resolution to modify our $15 an hour minimum wage that we all voted for.
It doesn't get it again. There's Republicans, and then there is Florida Republicans, and they are on a whole other level. The problem in the state of Florida, here's the issue with Florida. We are a state that should be a bastion for working class voters, and a lot of them were completely enamored with Trump. I don't know if they're enamored with the GOP. I think that they really just love Trump, and they love DeSantis because him and Trump are very close. But the reality is, I don't think working class people like shit like this.
No, they don't. And you know what? I would like to just give a quick shout out to John Morgan. I'm not always a fan of John Morgan, but in this, he was on the right side of things. And he is saying that not only is this patently unconstitutional, but he's threatening to sue on behalf of the fan. Who does he say this? Hold on. Yeah, he's threatening to sue the state over this. So
Florida has been a Republican supermajority since 1998. So, as you can imagine,
and again, I'm not a fan of John Morgan, by the way. But
we've
credit
had
where credit is due.
Really bad decisions that have been made for quite some time, and this is only going to get worse because most people are not paying attention. So, one of the things that we're going to conclude with this evening is that going forward, we are going to have a Florida politics segment on the show starting Monday.
Yeah, next Monday we're going to start, because really we were doing live streams on Thursdays. Now we're doing them twice a week because we're getting guests twice a week.
Right.
So what we're going to do on Mondays is we'll have a specific segment where we focus on what's going on in Tallahassee. And we're not sure exactly how we're going to do that, whether or not there'll be somebody that comes on as like a correspondent to kind of go over what's going on, right, or if it'll be maybe in combination with different Florida legislators. We'll see what we're going to do, but we're going to focus on Tallahassee issues.
Just like on Thursdays, we have news and amuse and bootlicker.
And we could still have that, but
I'm just saying for Monday, that would be
Monday, right? Because we're not going to have two bootlickers.
Yeah,
so
we'll want to have we'll
have a Monday segment on Tallahassee.
So we'll have a recap of what happened the previous week, and then obviously what is happening in the current week.
Yeah.
And look, we've been very fortunate. This from the standpoint of guests, we've actually been able to bring on a lot of very important.
I highly recommend people go back and look at some of the interviews that we've had.
State Senator Jason Pizzo, who looks very likely like he's going to be throwing his hat into the ring to run for governor.
Anna Eskamani,
Chevron Jones. We got a number of other people that may be coming on. Like to get Omari Hardy to come on. Marie Woodson, who is
we
our
can
friend,
definitely
is
get
local.
Marie. Sam, I'm going to ask Marie to come on.
And I got to be honest, you know what? I wouldn't have a problem bringing on a person in the GOP to come on. We need to hear their perspective.
Absolutely. We
need to know why they think this is okay.
Let me be clear that the majority of people that we reach out to are the legislators in our district.
Right.
And they happen to be a lot of Democrats in our district. Now, that is not indicative of the remainder of the state. So we are not biased towards having Democrats. That just happens to be who our local legislators are. I want to be clear on that.
No,
we haven't been
clear.
Excluding Republican legislators. Who do we have? I think there's only one in our district, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Chip
LaMarca,
District 93.
Yeah,
well, you know what? Maybe we could. I'd
invite him on. I'm just saying, in all fairness to us, our legislators are all Democrats in our district.
No, I agree, 100%. Oh, but the Sun Sentinel wanted you to know that they endorsed Chip LaMarca and that it was a big deal because they don't endorse Republicans. We're really in establishment hell down here.
Oh my God,
so
save us! No, I'm kidding.
Seriously,
if Lee wins, I really think that we should consider that being our strategy for the Progressive Caucus, is like a group caravan to move to Virginia.
No, I think we need to
save
fight
us,
in Florida.
Lee.
We need to fight in Florida.
I don't know.
That's where we need to be.
No.
So, despite all the hardships that we're dealing with, we know that we have to stay in the fight, as do all of you guys. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on the Hill over the next few days till we see you again on Monday with this whole GameStop fiasco. The people are fighting back, and this is just the beginning.
Love it.
Going to get a
Bring it on.
Get the people their goddamn $2,000
exactly.
checks.
Oh my God.
Now.
It's ridiculous. It's so crazy.
Yep. this is really we're like I said. I
Yeah,
always felt-
Sam, honestly, if you guys do want to make any sort of movement to do anything to help Lee Carter and Virginia, it would be awesome. And if you guys would do it,
Melissa, if you're still watching, we definitely, any Gen Corps volunteers who
Yeah.
may want a phone bank, text bank for Lee.
yeah, let's put that
would
on
be
as something that we can do. Let's put that up as an opportunity for our volunteers. In fact, we should do that for a few different groups.
I agree.
Let's start
1000%.
doing that. See, we think of things while we're sitting here.
I amaze myself. I'm always
You're
thinking.
so brilliant.
I'm always we
haven't, oh no, he's back. We have brought on an intern to Generational Change.
Oh, my glasses.
And-
I cannot keep my glasses on straight. I don't know why.
I don't know.
Just don't. Well, look, you know what?
I'm talking about the intern. I'm talking about our new intern. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to do that,
No, you have-
and it's it's a young person because it's an
you have
intern.
some really amazing interns, and they are doing incredible work. And I am
Well,
listen. You got to put in the work. That is the essence of growing and becoming a person of great character. And you're going to do that. That really makes a big difference. And I just want to say thank you for all
This
you're doing
bugs me.
with GenCorps. It sounds like a really great organization. You definitely are not me, us. You definitely are part of the political revolution. And we are definitely going to make changes on the Hill. Believe me, when I am now the Senate chair of the Budget Committee, can you imagine the great things we are going to do? My good friend Joe is going to listen to me.
Joe's not your friend.
Oh, no, he's my friend.
Joe's not your
He's
friend.
my friend. He's
not.
going to listen. And we are
Joe
going to get
ain't
you.
no friend of yours.
You're going to get those $2,000 checks, and the people are rising up against the multinational corporations. And we are not going to bail out those hedge funders.
Yeah, I want to see. But you know what? When that happens, I'll be pleased to see it. But while you're here, you might appreciate the fact that our new intern is going to be doing a series. We're going to be producing a series where we're doing in the field work and going out and talking to different unions and meeting labor people, workers, and doing different segments on the different unions that are in our county and really getting to know our labor leaders. What do you think of that?
I think that is tremendous. And I think anytime we have the opportunity to build strength in labor, that is exactly where we need to be. And you are doing a fantastic job. Keep doing what you're doing. I think you got a great.
See how Sam says, I need a rubber chicken to hit him with. Sam, this is all your fault. You are the person who got him all of these masks. This is all you're doing. So if anybody's going to be getting me a rubber chicken, it should be you, Sam.
Violent. We're not violent here.
No, but he wants me to hit you with a rubber chicken. Sam's the reason that we even have this.
Listen, I have to get back to work.
I think, and I also think it makes you look like your teeth are all. You know what? Bernie's teeth are not like that.
No, they're not like that, but that's okay.
Okay.
We're definitely going to be
Get the people their checks.
We're going to
Bernie.
get the people their checks. We're going to get them their checks, and we're going to do everything we can to get them their health care.
Okay.
Keep working for the people. We have to keep electing more representatives that are by and for the people. Can we do that?
Yes. Can you? The mask is, first of all, it makes him look like he has like a tumor on his right cheek.
It's definitely not the best mask.
It's not the best mask, Sam, but you're right. I do want to hit him with a rubber chicken.
Well, with that said, thank you all for tuning in this evening. It's been a lot of fun.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube.
Yes. The watch hours, I would like to think, will definitely be up.
Yeah, everybody, we need
considerably.
watch hours. So if you're just sitting around doing nothing, put on a Generational Change show on YouTube and just let it run. I don't even care if you watch it. Just
Kick
let
back,
it run.
Chill. We got a lot of great content. We're almost
So tomorrow,
almost 75% of the
tomorrow, guys, special live stream tomorrow, 5:00 Eastern time. I'm going to be talking with Vosh for an hour, and I'm very excited about this. And then we will be back. Yes, Jen and Vosh live tomorrow at 5, right here.
This should be a very interesting show.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm telling you.
Also, again, his live streams typically get, usually like 15 to 20,000.
I'm very
time.
excited. So
it's definitely.
I'm going to get,
good.
first of all, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I was a philosophy minor.
Oh, are you kidding? Jimmy, listen, anytime you want to hash this out, we're ready.
Oh.
Because this is just nonsense.
Why are
And-
you giving that FaceTime?
Well-
Why are you giving that time?
Well, the fact that he decided to come on here,
Whatever.
you don't think that's really him, do you?
I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not giving him FaceTime. Whatever. Yeah, You weren't so interested in talking when I was running for Congress, so we don't need to talk right now.
Jimmy,
I have nothing to say.
Jimmy,
No.
Anytime, any place, anywhere, baby. Let me tell you,
Jimmy puts up.
I did not expect that at the last minute. I have no doubt that that's probably not him. But
I don't think that's
joke
funny. It doesn't
like
matter. I don't care. All right. So, and then we have interesting guests lined up for next week too, but I forget who's on Monday. I can't keep track.
Well, next week we are going to have Senate candidate. I'm forgetting the lady's name.
You're losing it.
I am losing it. I need a protein shake. It's is it not Lydia? The lady from North Carolina. She's running to be the senator. John, who is the lady? Forgive me, forgot.
Help us.
John, help us. Tom,
who's our guest on Monday, John?
Yeah, John, fill us in. Who
I feel like we're John could be like this imaginary person who doesn't really exist. Tell us, John. Who's our guest on Monday?
We're just going to leave us out hanging out in the wind, so we don't know. Tom?
Yeah, let me tell you something. I don't need to be aware of Vosh. I can handle Vosh. I'm good. I'm old enough to be Vosh's mother. I'm good. He's not going to do anything. First of all, let me be very clear. I'm not debating. I just want to talk to him. I find him interesting, so I don't have to be careful of anything. I could probably spend an hour just talking with him about, we could get into like Marxist theories and stuff. Like I'm going to get I'm going to get my whole philosophy.
Erica Smith. She is running for the United States Senate in the state of North Carolina. She has run once before. She is running a second time.
So that's our guest on Monday, everybody.
And she loves you. For
That's
some reason.
Nice.
I don't know why, but
Besides you, people do like me.
Possibly.
People like me besides you.
And if we don't have a guest for Monday,
my mom's usually on. She likes me.
Yeah, well,
or sometimes.
Remember when Hillary said that nobody likes Bernie, and then Bernie said, "Well, my wife likes me."
Right, that's me. My mom likes me. Look, Roseberry came on. She likes me. I have some friends.
Yes. So Erica is obviously great, and we're very much looking forward to having her on. I think that we're definitely making an impact.
We have Tom Hartman scheduled. That's
going
to be coming
Tom
up.
Hartman is coming up.
And I received his new book. He sent me his book to read. It looks really cool. So I'm going to finish what I'm reading now and get on that. So that'll be a good interview. We've got a lot of good things lined up, people.
Chris Smalls is on Monday.
Oh,
there you go. So we are going
Erica
to have
Smith next Thursday.
And what a perfect time to have Chris Smalls come on, because there is a worker
uprising. Do people know? And so just
now.
For people who might not know, Chris Smalls is the gentleman who stood up against Amazon in New York and lost his job, basically, was the guy who stood up on behalf of labor and what they were having to deal with in the early stages of COVID.
Right.
And they weren't getting any safety precautions. They were being lied to. And he stood up and then he got fired for it. So he has become basically a spokesperson on behalf of labor. And has been very public about this. So we're excited to have him on Monday, and then Erica Smith is Thursday. See, this is why we pay you absolutely nothing, John, just so that you could have all this information for us.
If we get monetized and we can make some money, we'll be able to pay John. So there you go.
This is why I'm so excited we have an intern, because I could at least pay her with credit. So it's like, this is somebody, like I wish I could pay people. And so I actually am having somebody that I could pay in a way. And I feel very pleased about that. John, I could give you credit.
Yes. Well, everybody gets a little
Everyone gets a little credit, but I mean like, oh yeah. All right.
We've had enough fun for this evening.
I'm getting a little bit punchy. I think I need to eat.
Yes. Well,
No, you already ate and you were supposed to cook for me.
Oh, I have to cook again?
You were supposed to cook the gnocchi. That was supposed to be the deal. You brought it over.
That'll have to be Saturday then, I guess. Or maybe, we'll see.
Whatever.
We really appreciate all of you guys coming on tonight. Remember, one more time, if you have not subscribed, make sure that you are
subscribe on YouTube.
Watch some videos, like, comment, and share. That's going to make a huge difference for us. We hope you enjoyed Lee Carter. We got a lot more great guests coming on. Generational change is coming to South Florida and the rest of the country.
And if it isn't, we're moving to Virginia.
No, I think I'll stick around and keep fighting. I may be fighting a battle that I can't.
You're going to be fighting. I'll send you the scuba gear you need when we're underwater.
But just like Chris Hedges says, I don't fight fascists because I believe I'll win. I'll fight fascists because they're fascists.
I agree.
And so we may have a lot of problems here in Florida, and it's easy to get discouraged and want to give up.
It's all fun and games till we're underwater.
Yeah, I guess we'll fight until we're underwater. And then I'll get in a boat and I'll swim away. So that'll be it.
You should really get your diver certification.
Yes, I will do that. Diver certification. So at least I can survive in the water.
This is what I'm saying.
So with that said, thank you all
Peace
for
out.
coming out this evening. I hate to leave 40 people watching, but hey, you know, we appreciate you.
Please leave them hanging. They'll come back for more. Maybe the real Jimmy Dore will show up one of these days.
For the rest of you guys, like I said, please go check out some of the other videos. I'm actually going to drop another
Who do you think is
clip from one of our recent videos. So go and check it out. It really makes a difference. We are at just over, I think, 2,600 viewing hours now. We need to get to 4,000. So anything you can do to help, that would be wonderful.
Just watch.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.